You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the host or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
And hello, and welcome to Ninja Talks. This is Oscar Hines. I am beyond excited to have these two wonderful ladies joining me today. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Today's going to be a bit of a different show because we have an opportunity to talk with some of our younger thought leaders in the space of entertainment, in the space of interviewing entrepreneurs, and you ladies have done your fair share of that. So I just want to welcome Deanna and Chanel. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So give us just a quick, brief overview of your background, and then we'll jump right into this.
You gonna go first?
Oh, you can go.
Okay.
After you. No, after you're so polite. My God. Okay. All right, Miss Deanna, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have a media background. So right now I'm a radio personality, but I've also worked as a TV host, produced a few shows. I'm from New Jersey, so I worked a lot in New York. So I have a really big media background.
Wow, nice. And don't sound like you're from Jersey. Not for nothing. I'm not hearing no accent. I've been talking to New Yorkers for a long time. I know.
It's a little different. So, I'm from the Jersey Shore. So
Yes.
Sometimes you'll hear it a little bit, but that's more kind of like a Staten Island type of thing.
Staten Island, really? That was my best Bronx accent. She called me. I think anyone from Staten Island's a punk, to be honest with you.
Well,
And
Staten
if
Island,
you don't come
Dayton,
from the
Jersey.
Bronx or Brooklyn and Manhattan, otherwise I'm picking daisies in Staten Island. I don't know what that. Okay, but I get you. So, well, cool. Well, welcome.
Thank
Chanel,
you.
tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm from New Orleans originally, and I have a media background as well. I've worked in radio, television, and film for about 5 years, roughly. I've worked on a few featured films as PA. A lot of background work.
Nice.
I've worked with a few artists around the Houston area and in the New Orleans area.
Yes. Wow.
Pretty much.
So let me ask you this, and a lot of people wonder about this, and you guys have both been in this space. You've worked with some celebrities, you worked with these different groups, and there's some commonalities that you might see. What are some of those in your experience? What are some of the things that you see with some of these celebrities, leaders that you would say is a thread that sort of ties them together? Do you see, because I've talked to a lot of multimillionaires, and there's one that I see. I'm just curious what your take is on that.
I don't know. I never really see a trend. I feel like everyone that I talk to, they all have like a different story and different path. I do see that they are, very much dreamers, and they're all very passionate about what they do, and they want to get their story across. So maybe that's something like a commonality. They really do like to tell where they came from and, show how they got to where they are today.
Wow. See, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, what I notice with a lot of people that are in that space, that are in that orbit, is that they're very crystal clear. Like, you have a certain clarity. Like, they are, nope, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. I'm passionate about this, and you feel their passion.
Yes.
So that's a common thread. That's what I've noticed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would also say a common thread will be that when there's so I would say, because you're telling your own story, you want the audience to connect to that story. Understand that everybody's story is different, and since there's everyone coming from different age groups, you have this new generation coming out with all the social media live things. It's a competition to those old dogs who've been in the industry for quite some time. So yeah.
So we're now in a world, and people with snow on the roof like mine, right? We're in a world now where that wasn't that funny. No, it's just like old guy. But the social media world has changed the landscape, because in effect anybody can grab this thing and become a celebrity in their own right. Exactly. So how and you all kind of, I guess you grew up as a product of this. I'm assuming, right? You've been around it. So talk to me about how that differs from what you think it might have been like before, and what advantages does your generation have versus, let's say, my generation?
Well, I just feel like back in the 90s, it was easier for underground rappers, artists, singers to get their album heard because it's not that much competition out there. It was harder to reach people because social media is it's at the palm of our hands. It's in the disposal, so it's easy to get sidetracked. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. And you could reach out and touch anybody. Like you could touch Beyonce on IG or something, and she could respond to you potentially right back, right?
Yeah.
So the 6 degrees of separation that used to exist is now what, 2 maybe?
It's even easier now. There's another new platform called Clubhouse, and you can literally be in conversations with celebrities. So I know that there's Joe Budden. He has like a show. They can literally put you on stage with these celebrities, and you're literally having a conversation with them back and forth. So it's crazy how now accessible people are.
Wow.
To each other.
Which I love that, because there used to be this mystique that, that star is up there and you can't ever touch them, but what you start to realize about a lot of these celebrities, and you guys have been around enough of them, is they put their pants on the same way. I've sat, like, I remember my first sort of quintessential moment. I'm in radio, and it was bizarre because I was asked to do this assignment, and I was at another radio station, and so I ended up in the Lexus lounge in the Toyota Center. Most people don't even know there is a Lexus lounge, right? So there's this really cool lounge at the bottom of the Toyota Center, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there, and I'm not kidding, Idris Elba sits right next to me, and he's got a martini, and I'm drinking a martini. I'm like, he's like, how you doing, Mike? I said, I'm good. Idris, how are you, man? I love your stuff. He goes, oh, thank you, man. He says, it's a little bizarre, but I'm beginning to nest. You know what nesting is? And so I looked at him. I said, so you got a bun in the oven? He goes, how'd you know? He said, no one knows. You can't tell anybody. He said, I've been nesting. This American thing. You get with your girl, you stay in, you watch Netflix and chill, and she's got a little baby coming. I said, man, that is awesome.
Oh
he's like, you're not a reporter, are you? I said, well, I work for a radio station, but your secret's safe with me, brother. And then he's like, I gotta go, mate. I was like, I just got a secret told to me by Idris Elba. And then within a matter of moments, Lance Gross was right there. I got folks with pictures of these guys.
Oh, wow.
And then I happen to think she's beautiful. You guys, she is gorgeous. Tatiana Ali.
Oh my God.
She was there. So all of a sudden, and when I tell you, so centered. Like when I talked to her, and she's younger than I am, but when I talked to her, she was so like her clarity was amazing. So anyway, so you're right, they are different, but so you guys in your own right, you've been through these circles, but creatively speaking, when it comes to your own creativity and imagination, what does that lend itself to inside this entertainment industry we're talking about? What kind of dreams and aspirations or creative ideas? I see her wheels turn.
Yeah.
No, but what does that look like for you guys?
Changing the perspective on how the community, how we see ourselves. I want to be able to create this confidence in our community, that because it seems like we like to put up these walls, and I want to be able to change that. Definitely.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
That's definitely a big thing to break down those barriers. Those.
So what? Let's be specific. What's the wall? Let's talk. We can talk race.
Okay.
It's okay. Don't have to skirt around it.
Okay.
Brown people up here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I do come from a mixed background.
Yes.
And so my mom's Honduran and French,
Ooh.
and my father is Black and Jamaican.
Rastafari.
So I'm but I was raised with primarily my mother
Uh-huh.
and my stepdad who's Native American.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
heck of a mix. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. Wow.
his mother's Cherokee,
Wow.
and I think his father is Cherokee as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Nice diversity.
New
I love
Orleans
it.
is very mixed. But like I was saying, basically when coming from different backgrounds in the media world, it's basically okay. So coming from different backgrounds
Yeah.
in the media world,
Mhm.
I feel like it connects all of us with having the same story, because we all have the same story. It's just told differently.
Different
I feel
versions.
like in different versions. I feel like we all have the same story, technically. Like, even though I came out here from New Orleans, my family moved out here from New Orleans due to Katrina. And once I landed down in Houston, it was so similar. But it was a lot of difference as well.
Wow. So that's fascinating. So Deanna, with you, what's sort of your enduring message, or what, because you're talking about our sameness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, how we are similar. What about you? What does that look like?
You know, because I like to talk to people and I love to interview, that's what I do. I want people to understand, like, that everyone has something special about them. And I think that we really need to just, like, appreciate that. First of all, appreciate it within yourself first, so that you can appreciate it with other people. Everybody has a story. Everybody has, you know, something to tell and something to teach someone. And everyone also has things that they should be taught. So I think that I kind of want to bring that aspect as, stop kind of like making everybody so different and really start to understand, you know, where everyone is coming from and who they are.
Wow. I love that, because it's very similar what you're saying, and it falls in line with a lot of my own personal belief systems. You know, we've got a 1/16 of an inch, this thing we call skin, and people have made it so divisive, and it's become such a hotbed. And I think whoever the powers that be that perpetuate hate, and perpetuate these false narratives, you know, shame on them, because it's a debased way of thinking. And if we are to accomplish anything as humans, we have to vibrationally be in synchronicity.
Right.
And we have to all be able to look at each other and say, we're brothers and sisters, and we're on this third rock from the sun. So how do we make it better? You know? So that's a big conversation. So how do you get to somebody? What do you do to reach that person?
I think that social media is doing that now. People are really starting to open their eyes to different things and bring more awareness to how, messed up things are.
Yeah.
So, you know, TikTok a lot, they have so many like videos of people really like putting it out there that the way that we have been living and the way that the country is set up is so, not even just the country, literally the world.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not right. And it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And I think that because more and more awareness is coming, it's really making a lot more people start to question. And I feel like the generations that are coming, so my generation and the generation like right under me, what is that? Is that Gen,
yeah,
Gen
so
Z?
we have the
Generation
Z. Gen Z. Where's Zeta?
Yeah, Gen Z. Like, I think that like our generations are going to be the ones that are really going to change the narrative of the world. And you know, like my parents' generation, they still are kind of like stuck in their ways, and our generations are the two generations that are like questioning everything. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do this because you told me to do this. I'm not going to stay at a job that I hate for 20 years just because I need to have a job. Like, I want to do what makes me happy.
Yes.
And like seeing the change in the world right now and the narrative is like really, it's really encouraging, because I really do feel like we're branching off into like a better world.
Wow. Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But the narratives have been twisted for so long. Like you talk about your stepfather being an American Indian, or a native Indian, I should say. I remembered hearing that Indians scalp people.
Oh.
And then until
no,
like,
but I can tell you we have remedies.
I believe I believe that
remedies.
until one day it was like, wait a minute, the cowboys were scalping the Indians. You know,
Yeah,
like who
I'm
knew?
it's the other way
It's
around.
like, got me another pelt. It's like, what? So that's the narrative. That's the false narratives. And sometimes those things have been, but if you think about it, they call TV programming.
Yes.
And in effect, we have been programmed from the beginning.
Yep.
There's fascinating stories. There's documentaries about how the CIA and the governments were all involved in Hollywood.
Yep.
Like literally, the producers, the big production companies that came out in the 1930s and 40s, the Warner Brothers and the Goldwyn Mayers, these were operatives, were CIA operatives that had narratives that they wanted to put forth. This was good, this was bad, this was, so the evil empire became Russia, for example, the Iron Curtain and the Soviet Union. And all of this is designed to keep us in odds with each other.
Right.
I mean, so now so you think that's dying out based on what you said?
I think so, because it's bringing more awareness, because now, we're able to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Before social media, you didn't have access to as many people as you do now.
Yes.
It's literally in the palm of your hands. You can get all of the information that you need. And I think that's really what is going to break that barrier, is people like getting the information, talking to others and comparing the notes and saying, this doesn't add up. That doesn't sound right. Why is this happening?
Yes. So questioning all of it. So you think that will that crack the shell and get us where we need to be, Shayna?
No, I don't. Not necessarily. I don't know. I just feel personally that face-to-face transaction communication interactions are better than social media, because I pass.
But how do you do it in the world of COVID?
Media.
Yeah.
In the world of COVID, yeah, you're right. 6 feet.
6 feet.
I'm sorry. I understand that social media has taken this generation, our generation, to a whole different direction than face-to-face communication. But dealing with social media, I just feel like you're not able to capture the feeling. You're not able to capture the actual point that people are trying to come across, because it's just so much being thrown at you that it's like, oh, what's the next thing?
So from your perspective, the essence of human interaction is really what's lacking in this context. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at that. I like that. So that's pretty cool. So one of the ways that I think can help, this is just my own thought, is in artistry, because art's like a universal language. Like, you notice how little white kids in the suburbs love rap because it's cool, it's got the right beat, it's got some cool lyrics, and you got white kids that they love. Black kids that love Caucasian music, alternative music. Yeah. Hey, look, I grew up on the Beatles and all that stuff. I love that, you know. So I think music is universal, art is universal. There's different art that'll appeal to different people. But if we can start reaching people through that dialogue, that would actually be kind of wonderful also. So I think that's pretty cool. So I have loved this conversation with you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm excited. We're going to be doing some things in the very near future, so we will be seeing more of you guys. I'm excited. Yay. How do folks stay in touch with you? If they just absolutely adore you already, how do they stay connected?
Well, on Instagram, I'm Shaynell, the Real Savage, and that's DA. Real Savage.
And your last name is Savage.
Amazing.
Okay, so we got to clarify
Again,
that.
My name
Otherwise,
is Shaynell Savage.
Shaynell Savage.
Yes.
That's right. That's your last name.
Yes.
You're not saying you are. You're very genteel normally.
I know a lot of people like to claim savage as that they're a savage, but I'm like,
that's right. Yeah, but it's a macho term now. Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
I'm
cool.
savage.
Shaynell Savage. Thank you so much. I loved it. Thank you for joining us. How about you, Dion?
My Instagram is the Deanna Joy. So that's the DIONNAJOI.
Ah, nice. The Deanna Joy. Well, ladies, it was absolutely a real privilege to talk with you. I love your perspective. I love what you do. I love your energy. So we're looking forward to some really great things. And thank you for joining the Edge Radio family. Folks, you are listening to Ninja Talks. When we come back, we're going to be joined by a couple of gentlemen, and we're going to have a conversation about some of the things happening in the world and some of our perspectives. So give us a few moments, folks. Stay right there. We'll be back in just a moment here on Ninja Talks.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
Aren't you tired of not getting what you want in bed?
Are you ready to spice things up behind those closed doors?
Woo! We're here for you every hump day at 7 p.m.
This is Sex on the Edge with Jen and Hen. I'm Jennifer Reeves.
And I'm Hendrik Scott, and we are professional licensed sex therapists.
So remember to watch us Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Edge Radio TV, just in time for sexy time.
And we are back. This is Ninja Talks here at the Edge Radio Network, 415 West Gray. We are here live in studio. It's been an amazing day, amazing people, joined by two more amazing gentlemen. Now, you know, just now the estrogen level was a little high up here, I have to admit. So now I'm glad we got a little testosterone. We ground this a little bit. Well, a new face to our platform is Mr. Jamal Brown. Welcome, Jamal. Tell us a little bit about you.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Jamal Brown. First and foremost, I say what I always say, that I am from Grand Prairie, Texas. If you don't know where that is, that's perfectly fine, because I'm going to tell you anyway. So I am from Grand Prairie, Texas, which is a city directly in between Dallas and Fort Worth. I am very proud to be where I'm from, so that's why I let everybody know where I'm from. To say I do things that are interesting, I'd be lying to you. I don't do nothing that interesting. But I am the host and producer of my own podcast called the D1 Ignite University Podcast, where, as I've explained a few times today, I describe it as it is a show about sports, pop culture, and whatever I think is funny that day.
Okay. So you said ignorant?
Ignorant, but it's ignant, because there is a difference.
Ignorant, okay. What's the difference?
Okay, so ignorant is an actual dictionary word that means a lack of knowledge for or about something. Ignorant just means I don't care if it harms anybody because more than likely it won't. It's just for a laugh and for my own enjoyment.
Okay. So trivial bliss. Trivial. Let me bring John Arthur into this conversation. John Arthur, welcome. This is John Arthur. He is the host of the great show When Opinions Collide. Always enjoy some of the folks you bring. So welcome, because he was talking ignorant. I don't know if we're going to go there or not, but welcome.
Hey, it's always fun. It's always fun.
So we've seen some ignorant stuff, as you say, and some pretty ignorant stuff. In your opinion, John Arthur, what's been sort of one of the most blatant, glaring, recent things that you think has been just really ignorant?
So if you want, I don't know how recent you want to talk about, but I'll go with one I think most of us can agree with is every single changing whim of COVID policy. And I'm looking at how it's killed more people. The lockdowns have killed more people through suicide and mental health issues than what the actual science suggests COVID only deaths has killed. And I mean, if you have COVID and you have a gun trauma wound, you are labeled as a COVID death.
Wow.
And there are, as someone who knows a lot of frontline workers, it's really quite ugly. There are a lot of ways that you can get around and help people who are suffering from COVID, from the more deleterious symptoms, with simple steroids. And instead of doing that, we're focused on pushing a vaccine.
Correct.
That was created in China during Barack Obama's administration. They sent money over there, and it's not just one politician. There's a group of people who've always had their mind out set for their own gain, their own will to enforce and push on the American people. But they've patented the vaccine in 2017. You can look it up. Fauci's name is on that patent. And now we're pushing this RNA vaccine, which, as a sometimes vaxxer, I'm not really an anti-vaxxer per se, but I 70 vaccines for an 18-month-old sounds insane.
That's right.
But now we have this mRNA vaccine, and anyone who talks about it, God forbid, this video might get taken down. Someone was talking about it in an Ohio State legislative session. YouTube took that whole thing down.
Wow.
They deplatformed it because, well, that's disinformation. The guy was talking at a hearing.
Wow.
So I would call that ignorant.
Yeah.
I love the term. I'm going to steal that. You mind if I steal that?
So you just said a lot. That was a lot. So this idea that right now we have more people dying of all these other ancillary situations. They're stuck in their houses, they've got masks, they're depressed, all of that is killing more people. But you're also saying that there are some other viable options to this vaccination. Now, I heard something that was kind of, I guess I want to say crazy, but when I heard it gave me pause. They said that this is being called a vaccination, but it is not a vaccination. It is actually a treatment. And so what's the distinction? Well, a treatment is something that when you have a disease, it's an ongoing, quote unquote, treatment to maintain the disease or maintain a relative degree of health with the disease, versus a vaccination that is prophylactic, that is supposed to stop and prevent something from furthering.
The vaccine will not stop you from getting COVID. They will tell you that.
So then why is everyone getting it?
Because, it's a really good question.
Well, the treatment is not meant to stop. It's not meant to kill or stop the COVID vaccine, simply because we still don't know how. If we knew how, it wouldn't still be here. A lot of the countries who have better dealt with this issue, their people aren't Americans. And to be an American, you have to understand that sometimes we're just stupid. I think a lot of times Americans, we have a little too much freedom. And that sounds like a horrible way to put things, but sometimes we think a little too freely to where we refuse to accept very simple things that could help our own health. When you see countries like New Zealand and Australia who have very I'm not gonna say they've gotten rid of the disease 100%.
Yeah, well, New Zealand, they celebrated like they eliminated, but they're an island.
Yes,
they have 5 people and 20,000 sheep on that island. I mean, changing the actual immigration or lockdown procedure
is a lot easier for a country like them than us, who is.
Whereas we had COVID here in October of 2019.
But if you consider what this virus is, it's a coronavirus, which is like a cold. Why haven't they cured the common cold, and why is there no vaccination for the common cold?
It's impossible.
Yes, the corona is a family of viruses, just like SARS is part of that family, and it has a different strands, and they definitely mutate at rates that we do not fully understand, and in ways that we do not fully understand, because science is an ongoing thing, and it doesn't always make sense to us.
So a vaccination that has a certain footprint may be viable only temporarily, because when it goes into somebody's body, it changes, and then it mutates to something else, right?
And that same mutation may be for better, for worse, or for nothing. Because when we hear the word mutation, we think negative already. We think the Ninja Turtles mutated and that wasn't a good thing. Or when we hear mutation, we think, oh, zombies, that's what causes a zombie movie apocalypse. Mutation just means a change. And that change can be nothing. It can be something, or it could be not even.
But in the case of this virus, it means more virulent strands are going to come out. Right?
Yes. So mutation in this context is actually a bit of a misnomer. It's not a mutation, but it's a change. It is a natural selection change in the population of the virus.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, we found antibodies for this population of that virus. And so the deviations from that are the ones that are now the more dangerous strain. But I would actually run to, you made a claim, I would challenge you on the claim that we don't know how to deal with that. And it's because it's politicized that it's an issue. But things like ivermectin, budesonide, dexamethasone. I have a family member who's a frontline worker, and he sneaks people dexamethasone at the risk of getting someone in trouble here. Wow. He sneaks people dexamethasone or some of these other things. He'll put it into the freaking ventilator. This person has an 80 to 90% chance of dying. That person's ambulatory. Every single one of them is ambulatory within days. Within 3 days, where they were at an 80, 90% chance of death, they are ambulatory, 100% of those. And his response is, every death, every body bag that has COVID tag on there, that is an actual COVID tag, it's on your heads. When he's told the board of the hospital that, and they will not change because they make too much money. They make too much money, and it's against their political agenda. It's the two things. And you look at this virus. This virus came from China. China was well interested and well vested in this election. More than that, they are interested in the money, they're interested in the power, and we have actually allowed certain policies to infringe on American rights, eroding our Constitution, where if you're talking about a real emergency, I agree. There are some things that we need to be willing to make a sacrifice for. But if there's a simple steroid that'll change it, and they're not telling us that. And we all go around thinking we have to take the vaccine. Yeah. We have to do this because otherwise we're going to die. There's science. We haven't figured it out yet. The problem is the scientists, a lot of them are lying to us. And if you don't toe that line, you will be canceled. Yeah. And you will actually lose your job.
You're blacklisted, blackballed.
And you're blackballed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen, unfortunately, because like as I'm listening to you, John Arthur, I'm reminded of that group of doctors that stood right at the front of the White House, and they were all from all over the world, different backgrounds. They didn't have a dog in this race except they wanted to help people, and they essentially said there are prophylactic processes, and you mentioned ivermectin,
hydroxychloroquine.
I read about this.
Hydroxychloroquine does nothing other than change the way your body processes zinc. But you know why a lot of black people in Africa aren't getting COVID? Because they're taking, so some people said, well, maybe it's a genetic thing. Mm-hmm. It's not genetic. They're all on quinine.
Quinine for the malaria.
For the malaria.
That's right.
And that's one of the root derivatives or root ingredients active ingredients in hydroxychloroquine.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. It's a malaria drug. And there are a lot of safe malaria drugs that are out there. And many of them can prove to be prophylactic in that.
Well, hydroxychloroquine is only lethal, as Neil Cavuto stated on Fox. You will die! You will die if you take... He sounded like Alex Jones there for a moment there. I mean, it was crazy. But yes, you will have heart palpitations if you take a 2,400 milligram dosage of anything.
That's right, like an elephant gun. Boom, you see,
And that's what that test was, and they used no zinc.
Wow.
Ivermectin, oleander, but I'll tell you, budesonide inhaler. You can go and get that online through an online pharmacy. Get that shipped to you. We had a friend before my family member had talked about the budesonide. We had a friend who passed from COVID. He was in a nursing home, and he was 80-something years old. And they said, "Look, there's something that we could have done." We told the family about what my family member who's a frontline worker had said about budesonide, which is just it's a inhaler for people with breathing and heart issues.
Mm-hmm.
It de-inflames the lungs. And they said, well, here, let's try it on his friends who were in that same room. They were sharing a room with 4 people. The other 3 people who were about to go on ventilators, one of them, I believe, was on a ventilator. They put it into the ventilator. All ambulatory in 3 days.
Wow.
80-year-old people.
Wow.
The worst.
That were destined to die probably in any other situation. And they were back on track and they were moving around within 2 or 3 days. That's amazing.
And so we've been lied to.
Yeah.
We've been betrayed by the medical establishment, the industrial complex of medicine.
Yeah. Well, when we think about how vaccines are generally dispersed, like you mentioned this in passing just now, but so they are giving kids these injections for the blood disease, hepatitis. That's a sexually transmitted disease. So how many 18-month-old kids are having sex?
Well, if you're Planned Parenthood, you're hoping they start at 5. That's why they're in there talking about their PPs and tatas. But that's another conversation.
Oh my God!
I've got some great friends who used to work for Planned Parenthood.
Wow,
that's a really interesting conversation. But we'll leave that one off.
Yeah, very interesting. That's pretty intense.
I know someone who used to go in and try to sexually indoctrinate the kids. But yeah, anyway.
Wow. Well, but the point though is that there is a lot of questions around that. There's a lot of injured children walking around as a result of vaccinations. Young kids on the spectrum. I've heard certain things that did bother me. I don't know what the science is behind it, but like they were saying, for example, we're now seeing 1 in 36 kids get on the autism spectrum based on vaccinations, they believe. But they were saying that African American boys in particular have a higher susceptibility to this. And I don't know if that's by design or by genetics or what is involved with that. But when I heard that, I was like, wow, that sucks,
I don't know. It might be cultural in the United States. I don't know if that study looks at folks in Africa and versus North America, or if it's looking at North America.
Yeah, no, it's definitely specific to the U.S., not so much Africa.
So I would almost imagine that's cultural, because you look at a lot of these schools, not to get too touchy here, but it seems like the folks who generally put their kids in private schools because they have the affluence to do it, a lot of the time are white people. You probably have a deviation on that based on the vaccine schedule for going into public schools. I wonder if that's not part of it, but it's worth looking at. Sure. I mean, we should be looking at that. We should be looking at each patient and why are we injecting formaldehyde into this patient?
Exactly. And mercury, formaldehyde, mercury, aluminum. I mean, it's insanity.
Shark liver oil. Shark liver oil. That caused supposedly on one of my episodes of When Opinions Collide. Shameless self-plug.
Yes.
One of my
Thursdays at 11 a.m. right here on Edge Radio Network. This is what you get with this man. Okay.
One of my guests was actually talking about an epidemic of narcolepsy that happened, and wow. I'm quoting her because she's done the research and she's the one who's pursued all that. Robin, very interesting lady. But she said that there was a 20-something% injury rate where folks would fall asleep at the wheel of their car after getting this shark liver oil adjuvant. They were trying to make something that was more bioavailable, but in the process they caused an issue. And during the testing phase of that, they with a 20-something% injury rate.
20% injury rate?
They decided to pull it because
Wow.
all the people who were being tested in the early run of this vaccine were suffering from that. They'd be talking, or they would start to laugh, and then they would fall asleep or
That's
whatever.
crazy.
They would be in this.
So
weird
so
position.
folks, I because sometimes the listeners may or may not catch everything you're saying. So I want to make sure that they understand. First of all, an adjuvant is the thing that is introduced into a vaccine that aggravates the body enough to accept the vaccine. So they use formaldehyde, they use mercury, they use these different adjuvants. But you're saying the shark oil was not good, caused narcolepsy, where you fall asleep in midstream. You could be walking in the middle of traffic and you just drop like a wildebeest because of narcolepsy. So that's crazy. But then there are options, like there are certain mineral oils that are natural, adjuvants. In other words, they'll aggravate the system a little bit, but they don't create a blood-brain barrier problem where you're getting zinc inside of your brain, which is part of what causes Alzheimer's based on research, and also what causes issues with the autism spectrum, right?
Was that zinc or aluminum?
Well, aluminum, not zinc. I said you're right. Absolutely,
But,
aluminum.
okay.
Aluminum.
Yeah,
Aluminum.
It
Different
builds up
part
like
of
a-
periodic
Zinc is good. Zinc is a
good.
good thing. Aluminum is what forms in the brain,
But
and
yes,
and it's in
yes.
deodorant aluminum as well.
That's why
The when you do the underarm, it's going right through your lymphatic system.
It's
Your
impossible to find a good non-aluminum
deodorant.
They
Yeah.
just don't work very well.
Exactly. So that's pretty scary. So Jamal, I know I don't want you to. We're going to go right through here. We just got a few more minutes here, but give me your take on what is the most sort of biggest disinformation piece that has happened here in this past year, since we're in this whole age of disinformation.
There's a lot of disinformation in the world. On your previous segment with the two nice young ladies who walked out earlier, they talked about social media and how we are more connected. Well, that's a double-edged sword. My dad loved to try to pull this card on me in school. He would say, well, back in my day, it wasn't so easy to get information. You just can Google it. Like, well, you're right, bald man. That's what I call my dad. Well, back in the day, you had to go to the library. And even though there was a lot less information, it wasn't, we have now, I'm sorry, let me backtrack that. Now we have more information and it's easier to get to. But the fact that there is more of it, that means there's more misinformation. There's a lot more studies and a lot of things that you cannot trust.
But I read in a textbook that Indians were scalping the white man, and it's the white man that was scalping the Indians. That was in a textbook. Who wrote my textbook? You know who wrote my textbook.
And when was it written?
Well, back in the 50s.
There's a lot of things that have gone wrong since the 50s. McDonald's has changed their recipes since the 50s. I hope, possibly. Civil rights movement has happened since the 60s. Medical things such as a simple ACL surgery has changed a lot since the 50s. So if something has been written over 70 years ago at this point, don't knock my math. I majored in journalism because I'm not good at math. The fact is, check your sources, know where it's coming from, know who it's coming from, know when it came from there, and is it time to revisit these things? In 2008, I believe, Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. Now, to the average person, that seems crazy.
Big old asteroid.
It's just a Kuiper Belt object. It's just a big floating icy thing. There's a lot of big floating icy things. That just happened to be the first one.
But it's in orbit, though, right? It is in orbit.
Everything within the solar system is in orbit. We have what's called the asteroid belt. Those are just big rocks that aren't big enough to be planets. Those orbit. Technically, we orbit.
And I understand the entire solar system is spiraling constantly in black space or black matter. So we're somehow moving, and it's at an astounding speed. It just doesn't seem that way, right? So that's affecting our perception of time and everything. Well, that's a whole other conversation.
If you want to get into that, we can talk about the motion of space, time, and matter. That's interesting.
Time is a very interesting thing.
That's a good.
Well, the one thing that I can say my textbook did tell me that was right, because I did ask my teacher back in the day, why don't we feel the earth moving? Because it's moving really fast.
Sure.
And it's the earth itself is spinning, and it's moving around the sun, and the sun is moving around the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
And the Milky Way galaxy is moving around our massive super black hole.
Yeah.
Said, oh, okay. You ever put an ant or any kind of bug on your hand and you flick it around and it stays there? You're not big enough. The earth is too big and you're too small to feel anything.
Sure.
That's
right.
That's the simple way to put it.
That's right.
You can't throw an ant off you because in the ant's mind, nothing is moving.
Yeah.
We are the ants and the earth is us.
Yeah, even more so. No, it's fascinating because, like you said, there is a whole other conversation with the time-space continuum. That one we'll have to put a pin in because that's a big discussion. But the one thing that I do like to accentuate about time is that when we are very present and when we have real conversations, time tends to slow down because you really get to absorb the other person and what you're saying. You can look back at it in retrospect and it seems like it went by fast, but while you're living it, you're really in the moment. So time in itself, and anybody who's gone to the other side and came back, they say that time and space is really sort of relative. Like a billion years could be a nanosecond, and a nanosecond could be a billion years. It really, we measure time, but it's not really relevant to that. So that's a whole other conversation. But what I do love is having quality conversations with thought leaders and thinkers and people who are not willing to just accept what's being said in the establishment as factual, because there's misinformation campaigns that's taking place on a lot of different levels. We just have to be able to call it out when we see it. So we appreciate that. So Jonathan, how do folks stay connected with you and remind them of when your show takes place?
So you can find When Opinions Collide on this network, on YouTube, on Facebook, etc. 11 to 12 a.m. on Thursdays.
Yes.
Rather 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Excuse me. And you can find us on the Twitter at Opinions Collide. That's at Opinions Collide.
At Opinions Collide. Great stuff. Always deep conversation. So I love it. How do folks stay connected, Jamal?
Well, that depends if you want to stay connected with me personally or with the podcast's page. If you want to stay connected with me personally, the best way to contact me is at my Twitter at AdidasKing5. Whenever you see me tweet, I'm sorry. It's going to come out the way it's going to come out. But if you would like to keep up with the podcast, you can catch it at D1Ignant on Twitter. That is the letter D, number 1, IGNANT. Whatever you see from there, I'm not sorry about, because that's just the way the show is going to go. You can catch it on wherever you want to listen to your podcast, whether it be Apple, Spotify, your mama's house. It doesn't really matter because we're on it anyway. And we may be coming to the edge soon. We'll see if we get enough nods in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. This has been a great conversation. Folks, as always, this is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get, right? So it was great mixing it up with you guys. Thank you all for joining us. Stay connected to the Edge Radio Network. We are going to be bringing you continuous, interesting conversations, interesting encounters, interesting experiences, education, knowledge, and a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, folks. So you don't want to miss it. So we thank you for joining us. Be sure to share. We'll see you again next week on Ninja Talks here on the Edge Radio Network.